Dating an avoidant is frustrating. When you try communicating your needs or wants, they get defensive, or worse yet, they pull away, thus creating a self reinforcing loop that leaves you feeling powerless and like you can never have what you want. Ever since learning about attachment styles, you have an easier time making sense of their behavior. But that doesn't necessarily mean you know how to influence your partner. I'm Carolina. I used to be anxiously attached. Now I'm an attachment coach and I run this YouTube channel together with my formerly avoidant husband, Gabriel. In this video, I'll explain that your avoidant partner is in fact overriding your boundaries, why they do it, and how to get them to respect your wishes and needs more. So, why can't you get what you want in your relationship? Most likely, you don't even fully blame your partner for this. You know they're not doing it to hurt you. You understand this is about attachment, about walls they built long before you came along. But you being so quick to see the bigger picture here is part of the problem. Let's run through this dynamic and analyze it step by step. Let's say you have a need, something relatively simple. For example, you want to feel important. You recognize this need and communicate it to your partner by asking for something pragmatic. For example, I need you to respond to me when I text you. It's simple, it's easy, it's not an unreasonable request, or is it? I could make a whole other video about this topic, about how anxious people are so quick to doubt themselves. If you guys want to hear more about that, leave me a comment. But let's continue this storyline for now. Once you make your request, there are a couple of potential outcomes. First one being that your avoidant partner will agree with you in the moment. They might text you back consistently for a bit, but then they'll revert to their old habits. Or when you say, I need you to respond to me when I text you, they might get a bit defensive and say, look, I can't promise you anything. That's something Gabriel used to do. He'd respond to my requests in the most frustrating of ways. Maybe I'll do it, maybe not. Looking back at it, so annoying. Okay, so that's the second case scenario. Your request is acknowledged, but you don't have full certainty whether it be respected or not. What usually ends up happening is that your partner will respond this first way. They'll come your way for a bit, then they'll slack off. You'll become somewhat irritated by this. So when you request the same thing again, they'll become a bit more defensive. They'll say something along the lines of, I can't promise you anything. Then you'll give them the benefit of a doubt. You'll try to stay positive until you text something and not hear anything back for hours. That's the moment when you'll be likely to push, to insist, or get openly upset and say, I told you, I needed you to respond to me. And that's also when your avoidant partner will be most likely to get very defensive, tell you you're controlling or needy, and that they can't give you what you're asking for. Or they will not respond at all and start ghosting you more and more. Either way, their treatment will end up making you feel like you shouldn't ask for things. It will make you second guess yourself, or you'll feel anxious. You'll start believing you're losing them or that they're planning to get rid of you. I've been through this cycle myself countless times. I know it. I understand it. And you know what? It still gets to me sometimes. Now we could analyze the avoidant side of things. We could talk about how they are overly sensitive, that they feel controlled even when you're not doing anything to control them, that they're unwilling to come your way because it makes them feel trapped. Their attachment wound makes them deactivate, so they run, they pull away instead of respecting your boundaries. All of these things are true. But something else is true too, that this process of you having to repeat the same request over and over again is a normal learning curve you will experience with anyone in lots of situations. It's not just avoidants who respond to somewhat uncomfortable requests this way. Everybody does. I used to work as an architect. In that line of work, you still do a lot on paper. You print out various plans, mark things on them. Point being, everybody in the office had a ton of papers on their desks. I'm pretty organized, so I'd make sure to clear out my space regularly. But the colleague sitting right next to me, She just let her papers pile up indefinitely. And once she would run out of space on her own desk, they'd start overflowing onto my side. So at some point, I said, "Could you please try to contain your pile of papers so that it stays on your desk?" She said, "Of course, sorry," and shoved her overflowing stack of papers onto her side. But by the end of the week, they were back on my side again. This time, I didn't ask, but I brought a box of cookies. I shoved her papers to her side, placed my cookies there, and offered her one to sweeten this awkward situation. She said, "Sorry, my papers fell on your side again," and took a cookie. I left early that day. When I came to work next Monday, my colleagues' papers were on top of my box of cookies. This territorial dispute lasted for months. There were times when I felt bad for being difficult. Other times when our papers would get mixed up and I couldn't find things I needed, so I was super irritated. The reason I'm telling you this story is because you surely have one just like this of your own, a situation where you had to request things over and over again, only for your requests to be half ignored or even judged. It's super common. In fact, it's pretty standard. It's how most people handle things they're slightly uncomfortable with. You must have that one friend who is always late. If you ask this person to be on time, they'll do it once, but then they'll revert right back to their old habits. If you have a kid, you surely make this experience almost every day. People are stubborn. They don't want to change. They stick to what is familiar or convenient. That's everybody, not just avoidance. What's more, a lot of us know this. We understand that this is how the world works, that you have to repeat yourself, be assertive, stand your ground, and not take things so personally. Yet, when it comes to relationships, we suddenly expect things to be different, and we take every tiny bit of resistance to heart. If the typical avoidant reaction to your boundaries is just a common human response, then perhaps they're not really the problem here. Perhaps the problem lies with how their response makes you feel. That you take their slacking off as a sign that you're not important. That's you're scared they'll abandon you if you insist on what you want. That they'll pull away and you'll never hear from them again. This is what I realized at some point, that I was being unreasonable. I'd take Gabriel's no and blow it out of proportions. When he would say, "I have other plans," I'd worry he changed his mind about me. When he didn't respond, I'd think to myself, he doesn't love me anymore. This overthinking and over dramatizing was just my own anxious attachment. It wasn't real, it wasn't helpful. In fact, it was only driving me to be more and more anxious, and I'd start to ignore Gabriel's boundaries too. I'd freak out, I'd try to guilt trip him into doing things, he'd pull away. You know the story. Point being, it's your anxiety that's keeping you stuck and helpless. It's not your partner. Their attachment style isn't really a distinguishing factor here. They're just a regular, stubborn, annoying human being, stuck in their ways, reluctant to change. So, what makes an avoidant respect your boundaries? Two things: respecting their boundaries and trying to meet in the middle. Let's come back to my colleague for a moment. That's how we resolved our conflict. After that one time when I was unable to find an important document, she understood that merging her piles was a big no no for me. So she made an effort to get rid of things sooner. I felt like my needs were being acknowledged, so I could cut her some slack. We reached a truce, but it took quite a few confrontations and repetitions. But in the end, we could laugh about it. The same was true for the speed at which Gabriel would text me back. Much like with the work colleague, I needed to learn to not take things so personally and to stand my ground. So when he wouldn't respond for hours, I'd sometimes wait until he double texted me before I replied something like this: "See, this is what prolonged silence feels like." At the same time, I understood that he wasn't always available, that this was his boundary. He didn't want to feel forced to interact with me all the time. Both of these cases, the paper fight with my work colleague and the conflict over Gabriel's pace of responding to me, took about half a year to resolve. I needed to first communicate, then reinforce my boundary, and I also needed to show a willingness to negotiate and come their way a bit. Turns out avoidants are just as difficult as any other human being. If you want them to respect your boundaries, you simply have to teach them how to do it. I know some of you guys will roll your eyes now and say, oh, but why is it my job to teach them this? If you think you're better than this, then you're just delusional. Everybody is this way. Think of something someone asked you to do recently, not something you anyway wanted, something you didn't want or didn't like. Chances are you did it once and hope they'll never ask again. Or maybe you started coming up with excuses right away. We are all a lot more alike than we'd like to admit. Zooming out to see the bigger picture can be helpful, but it can also just be a way to evade responsibility, to make excuses that justify the times when you yourself override your partner's boundaries. I did it too. We all do it. Avoidants do it, and anxious people do too. If you want your partner to respect your needs and wishes more, make an effort to cooperate, to meet in the middle and find a solution that works for both of you. Most avoidants aren't some selfish monsters. They want your relationship to work out too, and they are willing to come your way and cooperate. They're just not that good at it. And guess what? Neither are you. But that's okay. You can learn together and grow as a team. It's an incredibly rewarding journey. Nothing calms your anxiety more than having someone actually try to come your way. It's the best way to build trust and heal both your attachment wounds. If you guys want me to go into more detail on how to do this, how to find common ground, it's something we teach in our Attach and Avoid program. In here, we provide a step by step guide to help you go from feeling ignored and neglected to respected and loved. It is possible for you to get what you want. You just have to go about it the right way. And if you found that helpful, definitely check out my husband's video on what made him choose me. That's where you'll find his take on this story.